Consideration of the estimates for budget 2013 is expected to commence tomorrow, Monday. And of course, the Alliance for Change has moved to the National Assembly already and indicated its intention to cut several aspects of the 2013 budget. Out of the 51 billion identified under the projects, the Alliance for Change, through its motion, has identified, they are proposing to cut 38 billion of that. Joining me this evening to discuss the implications of the proposed budget cuts are the Honorable Dr. Leslie Ramsammy, Minister of Agriculture, and Mrs. Yvonne Pearson, former chair of the National Tishaus Council. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Minister, before we go into the actual cuts, your general view again on the proposed cuts.
Well, Eddie, and to all my sisters and brothers out there, I sat in the National Assembly throughout the debate on the 2013 estimates. The debate is a time when people put forward what they find objectionable, what they would like to change, etc. I sat there, one of the few members of Parliament that sat through all 6 days, and for every speaker. I was not one who got up and left when certain speakers spoke. Most of the opposition got up and left the assembly when some of us spoke. But I sat there through almost 60 hours for a reason. Because this budget has received and have been acknowledged as one of the most comprehensive budgets with more provisions for the people of Guyana than any in our history. It touches every region, every community, and every group of people. And yet, throughout that debate, I didn't hear the opposition commend the budget. They didn't find the increase in old age pension as a good thing. They didn't find the fact that we are willing to now to subsidize people's electricity bill, the elderly people's electricity bill, the $1 billion given for school feeding program, the $400 million given for school uniforms, etc. I can go on and on. They didn't find none of those things as things to commend. They said that the budget was dead on arrival. Mr. Granger says to his colleagues that he hoped that they have solidarity to reject the budget. And you hear many of them said that. And that is okay for me. But you must make your case. What is objectionable in the budget? They haven't identified a single thing that they found objectionable. What were their objections? One, that the budget was crafted for the PPP cronies, for a PPP criminal cabal. And I think most Guyanese would reflect and remember me asking them whether the money for old age pension, building a school at Kato for more than 300 million, $100 million set aside to support electricity in the hinterland, giving $11 billion to GuySuCo, to GPL to help with the electricity, $1 billion for GuySuCo to help the industry to continue on a trajectory of development, $350 million for the Demerara Harbour Bridge, $600 million for the Parliament of Guyana. Are these all people that are PPP cronies? Is the Speaker of the National Assembly who will benefit from the $600 million, the leader of the opposition, Mr. Khemraj Ramjattan, all part of a PPP criminal cabal? That's what I heard, though. That's what I heard. And therefore, leaving the assembly at the end of the debate left me with an impression that yes, they have studied the budget, yes, they have found nothing that they could object to, and therefore I would expect, contrary to their political rhetoric, Because I did hear Mr. Ramjattan say, we love the people and we care for the people just like you. Well, I want you to put your vote where your mouth is. Because in the interests of the people of Guyana, I would expect that every cent of the $208 billion allocated would be supported by these people who care, who love the people of Guyana. Tomorrow is their test. And therefore, if you will allow me a little
Go
bit,
ahead, go ahead.
on Friday afternoon at about 4 o'clock, you could imagine my shock, my disappointment, and my disgust when I saw a long list of items presented as the first set of things. And so a long list of the items we budgeted for, totaling some $51 billion. Over $38 billion of that have been cut. I know my colleague, Ms. Pearson, will talk about the LCDS and $19 billion and what they do. But I was particularly shocked by some of the things in there. And one of them was $814 billion for agriculture. I'm not going to go into the detail right now, but in this opening remarks, what I want to say to my sisters and brothers is that after 6 days, I would have thought that something that you find objectionable, you would have listed it. You had many hours to talk. And yet you come now and you cut things that you didn't mention once in the whole debate as objectionable to you. And I would talk directly to the Guyanese people in a few minutes about some of the things they want to cut. And I want to ask, not Mr. Ramjattan, not Mr. Granger, because they're demonstrating they don't care. I want to ask my sisters and brothers out there how cutting these things would be in their interest, in the interest of the people of Guyana. And so let me end this remark, this opening remark, by saying all I see from my colleagues on the other side as a behavior that represents total, absolute pettiness and vindictiveness. And if they hate me or hate the president, do something to us now. Why are you going to go and punish ordinary brothers and sisters in this country? Some of whom, by the way, many of whom, by the way, all of whom, by the way, that, well, not all of them, but many of them voted for the AFC and APNU. But you're going to punish them all because you're blinded by your prejudices and your hate for people like me.
Thank you very much, Minister. Well, Mrs. Pearson, this is the first time I'm actually getting from you, as it relates to the 2013 national budget, how you see the budget before we actually go into the cuts and how it will affect Amerindians in particular.
First of all, I would like to say thank you for having me on this program. Give me the opportunity to air my view in the public, and I want to say good night to all the viewers out there. How do I see the 2013 budget? I would like to say I see it as the people's budget, and the budget catered for every sector, health, education, infrastructure, agriculture, you name it, it's there. And the budget catered for everyone. If someone takes time to really look at the budget, and I would want to say the way in which the budget is being presented this year, 2013, and then it's broken down into sections. It's readable. Anyone can understand it. And so if the ordinary people take time to look at it, you would see there is something for every sector and for everyone. And so I think the budget is a good one, and that is why I'm disturbed. And not only me, I alone are disturbed, but people across this country, because I've been talking to some of our people, and they're really disturbed of what is happening in Parliament. and to the 2013 budget about the proposed cut by the combined opposition, I would want to say. But the budget in itself, it's a real budget, and it caters for the need of everyone. And I pray to God that we'll have that budget, because with that budget comes for the development for our people, our nation as a whole, not only the indigenous peoples. And a little while later, I would like to tell you how those proposed cuts can affect us, our livelihood, our well-being.
Coming back to you, Dr. Ramsammy, I want us first to examine, I know you will look at some of the other areas, but I first want us to examine the 814 million that is being proposed to cut from for drainage and irrigation, the impact.
Yes. The budget line that they have identified to cut is a initiative representing $1.4 billion in the budget. That amount of money was budgeted for two sets of things. One is the completion of the Hope Canal, and the second is the final payments for 14 new pumps to enhance the drainage and irrigation of this country. It appears, when I look at what they want to cut, because it turns out that the pumps that we are procuring is approximately $814 million. So it appears as if they have targeted the pumps for cutting. The pumps were secured. It's not money that we have in the consolidated fund. It was secured through an Indian line of credit through the Exim Bank. So it represents an inflow into the country. These pumps are to be located, and I'm speaking directly to my sisters and brothers to let them understand what is being cut. There is a pump to go at Albion, one to go at Rosehall Town, one to go at number 19, one to go at Kanji, one to go at Crabwood Creek, one to go at Blackbush Polder, one to go at Enterprise, Paradise, Dazzle, one to go to Pine Ground in Myconi, one to go to Canal Spolder, one for Windsor Forest, and one for Lima on the Essequibo coast. This is to enhance the drainage so that as climate change worsens in our country, we will reduce our risks for flooding. Those pumps are to enhance drainage for more than 60,000 acres of agriculture land. But there are also an equal amount of land that are associated with residency, where people live. Because these pumps don't only drain the agriculture area, they drain the residential community, places like Dazzle and so on, that would be enhanced in terms of our standard of living. More than 100,000 acres of land. You hate me? I'm willing to resign. But do not punish our sisters and brothers. They need the pump. Those pumps are to arrive in the... Some have arrived. Another set is arriving on the 20th of March, of April. This is next week. And another set is awaiting shipment because the manufacturer can't ship it until our engineers arrive in India to verify they have met the specification. And so this is what the cut represents. You can't identify things that are in the interest of the people, things that are to enhance our development trajectory, and cut it just because you may have some complaint about me or the government of Guyana. Tell us what it is. Let us deal with it. We have avenues. I have said for 15 months now as Minister of Agriculture, I've said in my office and out of my office, publicly, I offered Miss Dr. Rupert Lupnarine, invite us to the sector committee on the economy and all these technical matters you want to talk about. Let us talk about it. Why you wait until we have a budget and you now want to cut it? It is unacceptable. It is abominable. And the Guyanese people need to speak up and let these opposition MPs know that we will not allow them to stand in the pathway of development and a better life for all of our people.
But what do you think, Minister? You're looking at the figure here, 814 million, which is exactly the amount for the pumps. What do you think is the reason behind this proposal coming from the AFC to cut that funding?
You know, I listen in the debate. I don't like sometimes to speculate wildly. I go with what people say. In the debate itself, Mr. Ramjattan did not give a clue as to why this would happen. Dr. Rupert Rupnarine, who's a spokesman for agriculture for APNU, says that he would want to be satisfied that the $7.1 billion spent on drainage and irrigation in 2012 was properly spent, and he wants a breakdown of that, which I've said that I'm willing to give. And so I wouldn't know. I've seen in the newspapers people talking about an audit of aspects of drainage and irrigation. The Auditor General is presently doing an audit. The Auditor General has said that he has virtually completed the audit. Don't you think that the reasonable thing to do, the right thing to do, is to wait until the relevant body brings that out? Why do you want me and you to fight when we have an independent referee of sort that this country has endorsed, or we have an Auditor General, that this is the accountability process, and you now want to shy away from it? It reminds me of your call for a commission of inquiry in Linden, and then when it comes out with results you don't like, you don't want it, you know. So, and I will come back, I'm sure you will ask, because I know there's an 11-point letter to the President.
Yeah, we will deal with that.
Yes, and a commission of inquiry for GuySuCo. I will want to talk about that a little bit.
I'll come back to that. But the low carbon, or programs under the low carbon development strategy, budgeted 20 million. It is here, 19 of that is being cut, leaving it with $1 million. I know quite a number of programs, sorry, it's 20 billion, right? Yeah. 20 billion, leaving it with one. Quite a number of programs to benefit Amerindian communities and Amerindian people, indigenous people, will be affected here.
Yes. Okay. Again, I would want to say we are disappointed at the proposed cut. Why again? Why target the LCDs? And that is where our indigenous peoples stand to benefit. Think about it. Our electrification project, where the communities that have not received as yet, because some of our villages have received our solar panels, there are still villages out there. I wonder if the members of the combined opposition took the time off to go to these villages, to talk to the people, talk to those people who have received, and talk to those who expected to receive the solar panel. It means a lot to our people out there, because they don't have access to electricity like in the city. So this means a lot to them. It means a lot to their children. They can now study during the night, having proper lighting system. Not only the electrification project is at stake. The long-awaited OLPF information technology, which is so vital, so important for our children, our young people. We are awaiting those projects. Not only the information technology project. What about our community development plans, which hinges on the LCDS? This is something that would hinder development in our villages. This would take us back. And this reminds me of what one parliamentarian said. He said that Region 9 is one of the most backward places in the Caribbean. So if this budget is cut, especially the part of the LCDS that has provision for us, that will further enhance our development, it would really take us backward now. I think then we would become the backward people. So probably he knew what he's saying in advance of cutting the budget. Because it's not that Region 9 is backward now, but our regions, our villages would step backward in time. That is what would happen to us.
But isn't this LCDS also catering for the land titling?
Yes, but I'm coming to that. I'm just talking about the project, our development plans that our people have spent so much time looking at, carefully deciding, determining for themselves what is it we want to do in order to create some amount of jobs for us to move forward, tourism, agriculture, and a lot of
yes,
other
because a
projects.
significant emphasis is being placed on agriculture in the hinterland.
Yes, right.
So I figured
So
this too will be affected by some means.
Yes, so most of the community development programs that Yvonne is talking about as part of the Armenian Development Fund, actually most of those communities have chosen agriculture as a vehicle for development. And this rejection of the LCDS, basically they've cut it out, just like they tried to do last year, would mean that agriculture development, the vehicle to move people out of poverty and to generate wealth for this community, will now be stymied.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Land titling, I think Minister alluded to land titling.
Yes.
But maybe also you could identify some of the other, or you should identify some of the other areas or projects that will be affected as it relates to Armenian development.
Yeah, land titling. Why? Let's talk about it a little. Why is land title important to us? There are villages whose boundaries have not demarcated as yet. And when you have your boundaries demarcated, you can better manage your land and resources. And if we're talking getting into business entrepreneurship, and in the budget this year, we were hoping to train over 2,000 young people, because we want, in entrepreneurship, we want them to get into business. And so our training is at stake also. Our land title is at stake. Our community development plans are at stake. Information technology, electrification projects. So what are you telling us? What are you telling us? What is the combined opposition telling us? That we are not important? I would like to say we are very, very much important and an important part of this population. And therefore we would not take it lightly. Once more, hindrance to our development. It is not good enough. Like Minister said before, democracy in this country, you vote for whoever. And some of our people voted for APNU, voted for AFC. Is this what was promised? Development for everyone? No, this is not development. A better life for all Guyanese? No, this is not it. So what's happening here? What is the real purpose behind the proposed cut of the 2013 budget? Why do we want to step back in time? It is time we move forward, we continue to develop. Why, again, why target the LCDS, the Low Carbon Development Strategy, funds for that area? When the Low Carbon Development Strategy itself is an initiative that can take our country forward. Why is it being targeted again? Those are some comments I'd like to make now.
Well, I would like to answer some of Yvonne's questions, because why? One answer to the why is that they think we are all pawns for their private wars. They have private wars going on. They hate people. They want to punish certain people, but instead they're using the people of Guyana as pawns. So that's one of the first answer. The second thing came from the debate, where besides describing the budget as cardboard, painted to look like concrete, I don't know what that means.
I read that one somewhere, yeah. I read that one.
But also, several of the MPs called the budget, and particularly in referring to the LCDS, as Jagdeo's budget. And so, in answer to your question, I can answer it back with other questions. How come one laptop per family, for any family in this country, but particularly for the Amerindian children, is a Jagdeo budget? How come providing electricity, completing the land titling for our people, how come all these things are Jagdeo? And even if Jagdeo must get the credit, you know, Dr. Ptolemy Reed of the old PNC government would say, who cares who owns the cow as long as I get the milk? And so I care who owns the cow and who owns the milk, because what this 2013 budget is doing is letting the people own their destiny, control their destiny, and the people benefit from all of the good things that come out of this budget. That's what it is. So what if Jagdeo started it? What if Jagdeo gets credit for the LCDS? Somebody somewhere got to do it, but not once. I want to make this point again to my Guyanese sisters and brothers. Not once in 6 days of debate did any one of us in the PPP side spoke of Jagdeo and give Jagdeo credit. Maybe he should have been given. But we never talked about that. We were talking about what we could do for the people of Guyana. It is they who were talking about Jagdeo budget. But if it was Jagdeo that said we should help out the elderly with a $20,000 discount for their electricity, isn't that a good thing? If Jagdeo was the one that made a recommendation that we should reduce tax rate from 33% to 30%, isn't that a good thing?
Yeah.
So if there's something good but it comes from the wrong person, reject it. It's asinine. It's absolutely asinine. And I have no tolerance and no patience for something that hinder and create a barrier to the continued growth and development of my people and my country. I am a proud Guyanese, Yvonne. I am proud that I lived in a country that was transformed into a least developing, highly indebted poor country under the PPPC government, and partly under the leadership of Bara Jagdeo, that we are now a high, low, middle income country. We should take pride. And maybe we should develop at a rate that will bring us to a high, middle income country like Barbados. Isn't that what we are in this for? To continue the development? All of us should be working together. There is a time for pettiness and political quarrels, because we have election time to go on the political platform and call people name. We have the debate in which we could call people name. But when it comes to voting, we must vote for the people of Guyana, not for a political party. And saying all of this, Eddie, like last night, I want to address the people who voted for the AFC. because I want to ask them that when they cast that vote for the AFC, was that an authorization for Mr. Ramjattan and Mr. Nagamutu and Dr. Ramaya and all of them in Parliament to go and join with Mr. Granger and Apnu? Because when they do that, you know what's the result? You're not going to get your pump. And when the rain comes, you are at greater risk for flood. You know what it means? That our effort to bring school feeding to all the children of Guyana will be slowed down. This year, we are catering for 1 billion for more than 16,000 children. We would want to make sure that every child, you know, there's $1 billion in the budget for school books. You're going to put these things in jeopardy? This is what they're doing. And so I hope that my comrades in the AFC and my comrades in APNU will have the guts to be able to do the right thing and stand with the people of Guyana starting tomorrow.
Minister, the subsidy for, matter of fact, quite a number of subsidies in the budget are being threatened, including that of GuySuCo.
Yes, there is $1 billion of subsidy for GuySuCo. Eddie, people don't remember, you know, we have short memory. In the 70s and 80s, GuySuCo, through something called a sugar levy, throughout the 70s, throughout the 80s, large part of the 90s, GuySuCo money, billions of dollars, went to pay teachers, policemen, to support the bauxite industry, etc. Instead of letting GuySuCo keep its money and invest in the industry, they took that money out of the sugar industry. This is a PNC government. Now that GuySuCo needs restructuring and adapting to a new world of climate change, a new world where the sugar price being provided by Europe has dropped. In this new world that GuySuCo needs a little bit of help, we are questioning $1 billion to all those sugar workers, some of whom voted for the AFC. The electricity system in this country was almost non-existent. It had collapsed. You recall that an international company purchased, we divested the Guyana Electricity Corporation to an Irish company, that when they came in and they found the state of the industry, they gave it back to us for $1. People forget that. That was the state of the industry that we took over. And we have been building it. It's not perfect. It makes many of us upset. You know how many of your friends on BBM, every time there's a blackout, cuss out GPL. We know that. It's not perfect, but it is very different from what it used to be. You're too young to remember that. But ask your parents. Blackout used to be for many days, and lights used to be for a few minutes. Now we've reversed it. It's a beginning, but it's not good enough. And so we are now investing, whilst we're waiting for Myla to come on board, we are investing because we don't want the electricity rate to go up. Every citizen in Buxton, every household in Charity, in Albion, in Denhamstel, everywhere, in Georgetown, are going to benefit from that almost $11 billion. You question that subsidy. There's $350 million of subsidy for the Demerara Harbour Bridge. Every citizen that uses that bridge, whether you live in Region 3 or not, benefit from that. I saw some of my colleagues from APNU and AFC passing the bridge. They were subsidizing crossing that bridge. by the $350 million. Why don't you pay the full amount? Why don't you come out and say that? You're questioning that. But there are other subsidies. In a way, LCDS is subsidizing development in the hinterland. There is also $2.9 billion for electricity in Linden. This is on top of what we're giving to GPL. So I heard in 6 days people questioning subsidy to GPL, subsidy to GuySuCo, subsidy for the Demerara Harbour Bridge, subsidy to finish the demarcation of the Amerindian land, questioning all the subsidy. But what? There is also a subsidy for $2.9 billion for electricity in Linden. I have no objection to it. But why is it we question all the other subsidies and we're not questioning that? The truth is that the 2013 budget has billions of dollars of subsidy, because there is also the subsidy that they say is useless, the subsidy which will go into paying $20,000 towards electricity for every pensioner. There is the subsidy for water for the pensioners. All of these subsidies they question, but I didn't hear them question that. I am not afraid to say it, because I can say to my brothers and sisters in Linden that I understand and that the government is trying our best to retain as much of that subsidy as possible. So I'm not questioning it. But I am asking my colleagues on the other side, why are we questioning all the other subsidies? And again, I address my people in every part of Guyana. Did you vote for these fellas to come together in solidarity, to reject government's proposal to bring relief to all of us in this country? I could ask my questions too. Why are they doing this? Are you so crazy that because you hate me or you hate Jagdeo, they hate Jagdeo, they hate Rohi? Man, are you so prejudiced and blinded by your hate that you're going to take children who are infants, children going to school, ordinary people across this country, all they want, regardless of who they voted for in this freedom and democracy that we have created, you're going to punish them just because you want to go home, throw your feet up in your $50 or $100 million home and say, I got them. I got them. You know, is that what our parliament has become? Is that what our democracy has become? That you can drive in your $20 million car, in your Mercedes and all the fancy cars that they drive nowadays to go to the parliament, Lamborghini or whatever they drive, Porsche that they drive, and smile and say, I got them, man, I got them. And don't worry about the child who got to study with textbooks that this budget provides. Don't worry about the uniform that some children really need to go to school. Don't worry about the $300 million that we have to provide to build a school in Kato. The $150 million that will build hydroelectricity at Kato. And you want to cut a miler? Eddie, you, as I said, you're a youth. I'm no longer a youth, but I was a youth once. I was a child once. And I, as a child, listened to Chedi Jagan talk about hydroelectricity in this country. I heard Mr. Forbes Burnham promise the people of this country that if you allow me to freeze wages, you're going to get hydroelectricity. I heard all those. Generations after generation. For the first time in our history, this generation have a real chance to experience hydroelectricity. And you know what that means? All of our electricity bills will go down. What it means, that we'll have more reliable electricity. What that it means, we don't have to depend on fossil fuel. No, we will spend more than 650 million US dollars this year to buy fuel, fossil fuel. A mile will reduce that significantly. And so that's what they're going to vote against.
Right. We're quickly slipping out of time, but maybe Mrs. Pearson,
Yeah.
because this will benefit Armenians
Okay.
too.
Oh, yeah.
The cut, proposing a complete cut of the sport development fund, as well as the
Art development fund,
and as well as the
industrial.
Board of Industrial Training. Those two, completely removing the monies voted for or proposed or provided in the budget for the Board of Industrial Training, and that's 224 million and 100 million for Sport and Art Development Fund.
Yeah. What are you doing to our young people? Because these are projects that will target mainly our youth. We are saying the youth of today are the leaders of tomorrow. But then if we do not give them the necessary training, skills, we do not build their capacity, what are we saying? What are we thinking? Industrial training. And not only youth in the rural area, this is across Guyana. Our people benefit. Across Guyana, we're talking about here. Young people, sports. It is important. It is very, very important. And I see this as an insult, carelessness, total disregard for young people in this country, because this would hurt mainly our youth population. And from my mind, it's unacceptable. It is unacceptable. What are we saying then to our young people? That's the point.
I know for a fact, Minister, efforts are being made or already started as it relates to the Board of Industrial Training to diversify in terms of the target group. Maybe you can talk.
Well, you know, one of our problems in Guyana, why sometimes contractors are not able to deliver on time, is that there is a shortage of trained personnel for heavy equipment and so on. Because Guyana has developed so rapidly, and there's so much construction work and so going on. So some days you pass by a construction site, you see equipment, but nothing is happening because all the thousands of people we have trained are finding work within the country. So for example, more than 4,000 excavators are now in the hinterland. 20 years ago, if you found one, it would have been a miracle. Now there are more than 4,000 young people who are trained, who used to work in GuySuCo, who used to work with Courtney Ben and BK and so on, are now finding themselves working in the interior. So we have to elevate the training. We have to expand the training. The Board of Industrial Training has that mandate, providing training for people, making dreams come true, and making people qualified to do jobs that pay well. You're going to cut it out? You know, this is recklessness at its highest. And it is not funny. In case they're driving in their fancy cars and taking a glass of wine in their fancy homes and smiling, that it's a joke. It is not a joke. It's serious. And you are interfering with the lives of people.
Yeah.
You are, in fact, damaging the future of people. And you are standing as a barrier to the development of our country. And I take serious objection to that. This is my country, just like theirs.
I have about 1 minute more, so I'm going to give you 30 seconds and 30 seconds
Okay,
to
good.
your final call tomorrow. Consideration of the estimates begin.
It's very simple, Eddie. I would hope that every one of the 65 members of parliament and the two other technocrats that are in the parliament would go tomorrow for one purpose and one purpose only, and that is to vote in the interest of the people of Guyana, vote for Guyana, and that means vote for the 2013 budget.
Yeah, I just want to say I would hope that good sense would prevail in Parliament tomorrow. And apart from hindering the development of Guyana as a whole, you're hindering the development of 180 indigenous communities. That is what is happening with the cut of the LCDS. It directly affects our development. And it's not something good to think about. So I would hope that good sense would prevail in Parliament tomorrow, and we will have full support for the 2013 budget, the budget that caters for everyone's need.
Thank you very much. Honorable Dr. Leslie Ramsammy, Minister of Agriculture, Mrs. Yvonne Pearson, former chair of the National Tishouse Council. I want to thank you very much for being with us, and I want to thank you very much for joining us this evening.